Hi everyone. Today I'll show you how to use the Intersection Observer API to implement lazy loading for images on your website. This technique helps improve page load times by only loading images when they come into the viewport. You can see that I currently have my HTML and my CSS set up, and this is because we are focusing on the JavaScript part of this project. I have specified each image using the data source attribute and then assigning them the link of the images. Now, usually we would use the source attribute to set the image links of our images. But because we are going to lazy load our images, that is why we are using the data source attribute. Now, other reasons why we use data source attributes is because of a separation of concerns. The source attribute traditionally holds the URL of the image to be loaded. However, setting the source directly on an image tag causes the browser to initiate a network request to fetch that image immediately, regardless of whether it's in the viewport. By using data source instead of source, you separate the image URL from the actual loading process. This allows you to control when the image starts loading. When using lazy loading technique, initially you set data source to the URL of the image you want to load. And then as the user scrolls and an image enters the viewport, thanks to Intersection Observer, in this case, you then dynamically set image source to be the the source of this data set. So with that out of the way, I think we can start writing our JavaScript code. So the first thing we want to do is to check if the intersection observer is supported in our browser. And we use the if statement, and we do if intersection observer in window. So this is going to check if the intersection observer is supported in our browser. And once we've checked for this, we will then select all the images with a class name of lazy load. So we will do our document.query selector all and class name of lazy load. Now that this is done, the next thing we need to do is to define a function that is going to handle our intersection, our image intersection. So we'll call this function handle intersection. And this handle intersection will take two parameters, the entries and then the observer. These entries would represent each of the images that we are passing into this function to be observed. And we would look through the array of these images in the DOM and say for each of the entry, we want to check if the element is intersecting with the viewport. So if the current entry dot is intersecting, meaning if it is now in viewport, we want to get that particular image element. So we do that by using the entry dot target. And then now we would set the source of that image element to what is already in the data set dot source. After doing this, we want to add the loaded class for styling. We'll do our image dot class list dot add. So we want to add the class name of loaded. And once this is done, we want to stop observing that particular image. So we do the observer dot on observe. And so we have stopped observing that particular image. Now, in order for this to work, we now have to create a new intersection observer instance with the handler function that we have just created. So we'll do const observer, and then we create a new instance of the intersection observer. And we are going to pass our handle intersection function as a callback function here. So we do not have to include the argument, as that would be done in the background. And then now we want to observe each image in the images node list. So images.forEach, for each image, observe dot observer dot observe image. So you can see that working already. So if I scroll down here, you see the images are loading in as I scroll the web page. So this is how we use the intersection observer to lazy load our images, and they would only load when they come into view, and this helps us to improve our pages performance. Thank you for watching, and if you would like to see a fallback to this in case your browser doesn't support the intersection observer, I will put a link in the description of this video so that you can check out how to do that. Thank you.